We tend to think of artificial intelligence as a race to build the smartest computer, but the country that extracts the most wealth from AI might not be the one that builds the highest scoring model. It might simply be the one that puts the technology to work first. Looking at the current landscape, the United States has obvious, massive advantages. With companies like OpenAI and Google, deep venture capital markets, and leading universities, America dominates the research frontier. Beijing is running a completely different race. Rather than trying to outcode Silicon Valley in digital chatbots, Chinese policymakers are pushing to integrate artificial intelligence directly into the physical economy. The battle for dominance is moving off the computer screen and onto the factory floor. This move changes the metrics used to measure technological victory. Much of the Western conversation fixates on supply. The goal is building better models, expanding computing capacity, and advancing machine reasoning. Even if China wanted to replicate that exact strategy, it faces a hard ceiling. Strict U.S. export controls on advanced AI chips and semiconductor manufacturing equipment force Chinese firms to innovate under intense hardware constraints. Because they cannot freely access top-tier computing power, Beijing is asking a highly practical question: how do you manufacture demand for AI? Instead of waiting for companies to slowly discover software efficiencies, the government is accelerating adoption across entire industries simultaneously. This technological bottleneck has catalyzed a massive industrial policy experiment. By forcing the technology into the real economy, China is attempting to bypass its hardware disadvantages through sheer deployment scale. The phrase driving this entire initiative appears repeatedly in official Chinese policy documents: AI plus consumption. The objective is to weave AI into the routines of 1.4 billion people. Whether it is driving, cooking, cleaning, or shopping, the technology is designed to operate as a background feature of ordinary economic behavior. Consider household appliances. A decade ago, Chinese manufacturers competed purely on building cheap washing machines. Today, they are selling smart platforms that learn a family's habits, automatically reduce electricity usage during peak grid demand, and predict maintenance needs before a part breaks. In healthcare, systems are being deployed to review patient records, draft clinical notes, and identify individuals who require screening before the doctor even enters the consultation room. This strategy addresses a core domestic issue. With the old property and infrastructure growth models under pressure, embedding intelligent software into everyday products gives households a tangible reason to spend money, acting as a stimulant for the broader economy. While Western discourse heavily weighs how many digital jobs AI will automate, China is now focusing on a second engine, using AI to spawn entirely new categories of physical products. They are attaching this technology to a massive industrial base. China already produces nearly 1/3 of global manufacturing output and operates the largest electric vehicle market on Earth. The machines building these products are evolving. For years, factories relied on robots performing rigid, repetitive tasks. Now, the next generation of industrial robots can inspect components for defects and learn from assembly mistakes without human intervention. The long-term trajectory points toward humanoid robotics. Companies are developing machines capable of navigating complex physical environments, intended to work inside warehouses, hospitals, and homes. When you embed advanced machine learning into millions of industrial robots and consumer vehicles, you turn a localized software tool into a global export machine. None of this works without extreme scale. With over 1 billion smartphone users and a highly concentrated e-commerce sector, the density of human interaction in China provides a unique structural advantage. Every physical interaction creates a self-improving data cycle. Consumers use an AI-assisted shopping tool or an automated vehicle, which generates real-world data, which trains the system to be more accurate, which ultimately lowers the cost of the hardware. This relentless loop allows manufacturers to test products, gather behavioral feedback, and optimize supply chains. A unified domestic market allows physical systems to iterate at a velocity fragmented economies cannot match. During the deployment phase of a new technology, a massive user base acts as a self-improving tool that competitors cannot easily replicate. Despite these systemic advantages, Beijing's ambitions face harsh physical limitations. Advanced deployment still requires raw processing power. While domestic manufacturers have made impressive leaps, The lack of open access to the world's most advanced AI chips acts as a persistent bottleneck on computation. Furthermore, the country's demographics are in decline. With a shrinking working-age population and plunging birth rates, mass automation is no longer an optional upgrade. Replacing human labor with robotics is an absolute necessity to sustain national productivity. Powering millions of AI-enabled consumer devices and the data centers required to process their inputs will place an immense, sustained strain on the national energy grid. The speed of this industrial rollout is partly driven by ambition, but it is equally driven by urgency. Beijing is racing against its own demographic and economic constraints. The United States remains in an incredibly potent position. Its leading cloud companies, research institutions, and culture of entrepreneurial risk-taking continue to set the pace for what is technologically possible. Two rival nations are running different races. America expands the frontier of digital thought, while China expands the physical footprint of AI. Leadership in the electric vehicle market was secured not by the inventors of the battery, but by the country that built the charging networks and domestic supply chains first. Historical precedent suggests that long-term economic power follows the nation that commercializes a technology most effectively. Technological victory in the AI age will be determined by how successfully a nation integrates the machine into its manufacturing, healthcare, and logistics networks.